my salary at the church was $30,000 a year. And so when I had my first $30,000 month, I was like, haha. It took a while, but I remember when it happened, they told me this was my cap. And now I'm doing this.
More and more people want the flexibility to work outside of a traditional office setting. If you're interested in owning more of your time, solopreneurship could be the right path for you. On our Real Solopreneur segment today, we're going to interview Kristin Sweeting. Kristin is an award-winning international photographer with over 16 years of experience. Her photography work has taken her to over 20 different countries as she dives in deep with her clients to capture them with authenticity and show their connection with each other, their friends, and their family. Today, we're going to discuss how she developed her profitable solopreneur business and the steps others can take to grow theirs as well. Welcome to the show, Kristin.
Hi, thanks so much. I'm excited to be here.
I'm glad to have you. I had the opportunity to be on your show recently, so I'm glad we can do this again today. Let's talk about your origin story a little bit, Kristin. What was your original motivation for getting started with your photography business?
Well, I feel like it's probably similar to a lot of people who start something in the arts or a solopreneur. I was working at a full-time job, and I've always been a creative person. I have a degree in music. I've started little businesses. Like I tried to make wedding cakes for a while. It was kind of a disaster, but it was fun, you know? So I've always loved making things that were creative, but I was working this full-time job, wasn't making enough money, and got to use a camera for the first time. And it was like the medium that I had been missing my whole life. Like I had tried everything else except for photography. I got the camera in my hands and just like could not put it down. Started taking pictures of like every friend I've ever had and every flower I thought was pretty and just wouldn't stop. You know, one thing that I feel like was really lucky about my past job, I was a youth director at a really large church. And so I had all of these middle school kids that were like, we want to play photo shoot. And so I had all these like captive models, you know, they're like, let's go. And so it did really introduce me to a big group of people early on in my photography. I was decent at it. And so people started hiring me for $50 a pop at first. And it kind of grew naturally from there, which is crazy to say. And that was, 18 years ago.
Wow.
And it's grown into a pretty good business.
That's great. Well, talk to us about that. When did you first start to realize, hey, this could actually be my full-time thing, or I could make a decent living doing this? I know you said $50 in the beginning, but when did it start to click to say, oh, this is something I could do?
It was probably a few years in, and I was young. I was early 20s. I'd come from the music industry, so, you know, and I wasn't making very much at this job in nonprofit. So to kind of get to this close to the same amount as what I was making at my job didn't take a whole lot, you know? And so I was like, oh, interesting. You know, I knew a couple people who were doing it full time who were about my age, and we kind of would meet up and talk inspiration, but it was pretty quick. It was within a couple years. Again, I think partially because I was so young, partially because I was making so little money at this job that I took the leap when it was starting to interfere with my job, the amount of photography I was doing.
That's incredible.
Like, I guess I need to do this.
So you took a moment, and there was a time where you said, hey, I'm all set doing this. I'm going to move on to my next challenge. Was that a difficult conversation with the church at the time, or no?
It was definitely hard. I loved helping kids. I loved being like a mentor, but there were a few other things that made that tough. Like my life has really changed since then, and that church wasn't super empowering towards women. And so not to go too deep down this, but there was a moment where they were like, you can't really go any farther in this career because you're a woman. And I was like, okay, you know, and that was a pretty pivotal point for me, because I knew that was wrong. Like I knew that was wrong at the time, and it kind of lit a fire under me to be like, well, I'm going to go help people in this other way. And so really built built a business from there. And I remember when, that I know you like to get specific with numbers. My salary at the church was $30,000 a year. And so when I had my first $30,000 month, I was like, haha,
in 1 month.
In 1 month. Yeah. I mean, it took
Wow.
a while, but I
Sure.
remember when it happened because I was like, they told me this was my cap. And now I'm doing this in a month. And I think it was like, I don't know, a moment of a full circle something.
Did that give you pause at that moment too, when you obviously hit that incredible milestone, that advice or that guidance has been given to so many other women over the past century?
Yeah, I've known that the community I was brought up in also was pretty discouraging around women having careers. And so I was already like, that's wrong, and came into this slightly more expansive community only to be told that again in a different way. And so then when I started running my own business, I was like, I can create my life and my reality how I want. And like, I have so much power and so much freedom. And so it's part of the reason, a big part of my business now is coaching other women on growing their photography business or growing their business, because I've seen single mothers completely change the direction of their family. I've seen people start a business and completely blow it out of the water. I've seen people change their communities. I just think that creative people are so powerful. And so I do think like while I still look back and I'm like, can't believe someone said that to me, I'm a little grateful because it did put like that fire under me to prove them wrong and to choose a different path,
It's a sort of a love-hate comment, right? It's like, okay, I'm grateful that you said it because now I'm gonna blow this out of the water and show people the way. And speaking of showing people the way, let's get specific on the dollars a little bit, because I think that helps people understand what you've done to create massive change in your life, your income, and now you're showing other people how to do it. How do you physically make money as a photographer? Just kind of walk us through that process for somebody who doesn't really know much about the business.
There's so many different ways to make money as a photographer. I'll share some of the ones that I've done, and then I can talk about a few others too. But so most of my money comes from service-based income. So I get hired to photograph someone's wedding or their commercial marketing campaign or their family pictures or a portrait shoot or something. So it's usually a person or a company hiring me to take photos of them. But within that, you can sell prints after the fact, you can sell albums. A good majority, not a good majority, but like a good section of my income comes from prints and albums from the service that I do. You can also teach classes, sell presets, sell fine art prints, kind of more of a gallery style. I've kind of branched off into education, and like I'll host a shoot for a bunch of photographers and they can buy tickets, and it's a workshop with a shoot component. I've hosted travel photography trips for photographers where we go to Norway for a week and go beautiful places. So there's so many options. And like you, I also have a podcast, and so sponsors, or there's a few photography companies that sponsor some photographers too. So there's kind of like the sky is the limit, which if you can't tell already, I don't like being limited. So like I like that there are so many options, and it's been like a really fun path to be on.
I love that. I love that. So you mentioned a $30,000 month. Talk to us about what a consistent income is for you now. I guess not revenue, but like what are you able to pay yourself per month doing this as a photographer?
Yeah, it changes. I kind of set a salary for myself, but then I do the profit first model so I can pay myself a bonus on top of that. So I probably know the revenue numbers more than I know like what I pay myself.
Sure.
But
And that's okay. Yeah.
yeah, so now again, this is 18 years later. I'm also doing education. I do between like $20,000 and $50,000 a month. So somewhere between, most years is between like 300, 400,000 in a year in gross revenue. And yeah, It's really fun. And it's really fun. It wasn't like that at the beginning. The first few years I was like, if I can make 5,000 a month, I'm happy. That was what I needed to pay my bills and to pay myself and keep my business afloat. That number moved to like 10 and now is 20. And so, anytime I have a month bigger than that, it's kind of just extra or something you can reinvest or do something else fun with. So,
That's
yeah.
incredible. I love that. And as a solopreneur, do you have a lot of expenses that go into your business to make it happen? I mean, would you say that's half of what your revenue is, or it's a lot less because you don't really need as many resources?
The trips have a lot of expenses. So if I
Mm-hmm.
have a year where I'm doing several trips, there's a lot of expenses, but my needed expenses aren't that high. I have a part-time virtual assistant that helps me with things. I shoot film, so I do like the film processing has a cost to it. But most of my gear I own. Most things I kind of have. I love to travel, and so I kind of make up excuses to travel for work.
Absolutely.
So
Norway
I
shoot.
do. Yeah, I do a lot of travel. We're probably the last few years we've been like 4 months of the year in a different country. So we try to kind of live where we can go to Paris for a month and do some shoots and do a workshop and then come back and combine some family trips and work trips. So yeah, I what I do with the money side of things is I pay myself kind of the bare minimum. Like I pay myself what I need for my budget. And then the bonus, like I'll take kind of like an owner's draw bonus that I almost immediately invest or put towards our house or something like that. So what I live off is $17.50 a month. 17.50 a week, which is what I auto transfer to myself every Friday, and that's like my paycheck. And then the other stuff is I get to play with or invest.
That's cool. Do you ever at the end of a year be like, wow, that's a big bonus that I'm about to get? And then with that, talk to me about those financial goals that you have currently?
Sometimes it's been, I try to spend the bonus every quarter. So sometimes it is big. But like a lot of our financial goals have been around paying our house down, or I love traveling. So a lot of times it's like a trip or let's go do this for a while. And then investing is a big part of it too. So we try to move kind of like bigger chunks into investing when we can as well.
I love that. Wow. It sounds like you're doing incredibly well and you're enjoying what you're doing and definitely blowing it out of the water with regard to your original your original payment back in the church life. Let's talk about
Thanks.
your work week. Obviously, we talk about different resources on this show. We've got money. We talked about that a little bit. Let's talk about time a bit. How many hours a week do you typically work on your business?
I think it's about 20 a week, and it can vary because sometimes I'm gone hosting a workshop or shooting a wedding, which a wedding could be 20 hours in 3 days. I do kind of like big long weekend weddings, but during the week I'm doing a half day on Monday, I'm off on Tuesday, about a half day on Wednesday, couple hours on Thursday, off on Friday. So my work week is pretty spacious. I homeschool my son. Actually, backing up, one of the biggest seasons of growth in my business was when I got divorced and was single parenting. So that happened when my son was 2, and it wasn't a super equitable parenting split. My son was with me most of the time. It was really challenging. I mean, I love spending time with him, but I was like, okay, we gotta pay these bills, grow this business, spend time with my son. He's very young, and there was just a lot going on. And so at the time, I was like, I need to figure out how to make as much work as possible happen on one day. There was like one day that I wasn't full-time parent. So I kind of developed this batch system that I use now. So kind of the batched days. And then started taking coaching clients at night. So I would have them after my son went to bed. So like 7:30, I had 1 or 2 coaching calls. I built that side of my business. But a lot of the things I learned in that really hard season have transferred into my life now, which is in a really good season. and I still maintain a lot of the spaciousness in my schedule. I homeschool my son during the week. My biggest work days are Wednesday and Saturday, like when I have a wedding. And I have been able to get my pricing to a place where I only have to take 5 to 10 weddings a year, and that's enough for me. So I just think like anytime we have like a challenging situation come up, we can use it as a portal to growth. And that is really what I have felt in my business and my life too, is like when that season of tension happened, it propelled me into what now I consider my dream life because of the choices I had to make at the time.
I love that. Was there a moment in your journey as you were progressing and growing your rates where you had a moment that happened that said, wow, I'm really underselling myself. I need to be better at this?
Yeah, there were several moments like that. Sometimes because of hearing of what someone else charged, which could help. I also had a few clients early on that told me I was undercharging. they were like they were like, you should have charged us more for that. And I was like, oh, okay. So there were several people along the way that pushed me to charge more. But really, like, motherhood pushed me to charge more in a way I didn't expect, because it got harder to leave my son on the weekends to go and shoot like a 10-hour wedding, you know? And so I was like, I became really clear about what I wanted. I was like, I really only want to do 10 of these or less. And so in order for that, I worked backwards. I was like, if I need to make 100,000 in a year, and I only want to do 10 of these weddings, then I need to charge $10,000 for them, you know? So did a big jump. Like, I was around the 5,000 range for a long time, did a big jump to 10. And there were other things to back it up. Like, I had the portfolio to back it up. I wasn't just like, I'm going to charge this now. And then there was another big jump that happened around COVID because, COVID for the wedding industry was interesting time. It was the Wild West. We were, doing weddings during super spreader events, and we were, rescheduling events that we had booked 2 years earlier. So like, I had weddings I had booked in 2018 that were supposed to be in 2020 that now I'm doing in 2022. And I got paid for them 3 years ago and I'm still doing it. And so, that year I did like 18 weddings because they were all, and that was a lot for me because I was also coaching 30 women in this mastermind that I run. So I was like, okay, another price change needs to happen. And so in the past few years, I've kind of changed from doing $10,000 weddings to now doing 5 to 7, 25 to $50,000 weddings. That's kind of what it looks like. And it took a really long time to get there. And it's not just deciding, like, there's marketing and, a networking piece and a portfolio piece. There's a whole lot that kind of goes into that, like jumping to a more luxury price. But each step along the way, what I want my life to look like has really defined the choices I made in my business. And that's been like kind of a North Star for me.
That's great. And taking the time to think about that and bringing it into practice is extremely important. It sounds like you've done that. Let's talk to the person who's listening right now, who's very impressed by not only your income, but your lifestyle that you've built. Is this what can somebody expect to make, or their hours, if they're just jumping into photography today?
So I think it's all over the map. I think really starting, like, not raising your prices immediately, but working up, like serving a group of people, a group of clients well, and moving up is a great way to go. It's not unreasonable to think within 3 years you could be making 100,000 with photography. I coach a bunch of people at this point who, a lot of them are making six figures, or I would say mostly around like 1 to 200,000 is where most photographers cap out. And there's a lot of range beyond that. And there's a ton of people that make less than that. I think the average photographer makes 20,000 a year or something like that. But you're kind of taking in all the people that are doing it part-time and photojournalists. And there's just a whole gamut of photographers out there. So I think if you're picking an industry where there's a need and you're finding a community that needs what you offer, and you have a unique perspective, and you're just like passionate about it. I think one thing that people forget about is just how much marketing is involved in running a photography business. You have to stay visible, you have to stay out there. So, don't expect to just shoot a couple people's weddings and like then be making $1 million. You're kind of having to constantly market yourself and put yourself out there. But I find Instagram to be really fun, so it doesn't feel like work to me, and the marketing feels just like a fun thing that I get to do on the side to connect with people.
Absolutely. And that was the original intention of the platform back in the day of like beautiful photography, right? So, I mean, it kind of
Yeah.
lends to your business. Now it's all over the place with people making wacky reels like me, doing videos and things like that. But I'm glad that you pointed that out. Now, would you say to any parents that are listening, would this be a solopreneur business idea that would lend well to somebody who's a parent?
I think so. I think there's so much freedom in photography. Like, you can tell people when you can schedule their shoots. If you're shooting outdoors, a lot of times people want to do it as the sun setting, which, could be good for being a parent, could be not, kind of depending on your schedule. But I know tons of parents who are photographers, and like I said, I've kind of evolved my own business based on my son. Like, I wanted to be a music tour photographer before I had kids, and then was like, that's not going to work. I'm just going to nation weddings once I had my son. And so I just think that there's so many ways you can evolve the business with photography to meet your needs as your kids grow. And so, yeah, for me, it's been kind of the ideal business to have while parenting.
Yeah, and you said you were a single mom at an early portion of his age, and you've been the successful too. So that's a great example for everybody as they're assessing this as a potential solopreneur gig for them. Let's go through a couple short questions here that I can dive in with you as a business owner to try to learn a little bit from you and how you've been so successful. I like to call it the Solopreneur High Five. These are 5 short answer questions, and I'm going to throw them at you now. What is your favorite tool, app, or subscription that helps you stay a successful solopreneur?
I mean, probably, this is not the answer, but Instagram is
That's an answer. That's an answer. Absolutely.
is
Because it's an easy
my
marketing tool.
easy marketing, easy way to connect with a lot of people, easy way to show your work. I do a lot in like Instagram DMs, kind of like soft pitching all the time. Like, hey, you guys would you want a photo shoot, whatever. So I think there's just like a lot of range in that app to use it for a lot of things.
And your correct me if I'm wrong, your demographic is mostly female, I would say, and then
Mm-hmm.
Instagram's demographic leans more female. Is that correct?
I think so.
Yeah.
And it seems to be that both for photographers that I'm working with or reaching, and for, brides or other people in the wedding industry, it seems to be kind of like the place most people are. And I think TikTok is really successful for a lot of younger photographers too. I feel like I missed the age swing with TikTok a little bit. And so if I was
Me
starting
too.
my yeah, I feel like if I was starting my business now, that might be something I invest a lot more in, is TikTok.
Yeah, I tried to play around there for a couple of years, and I felt like the old guy at the party with a bunch of young people making jokes that I didn't understand. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
Like, why is this guy here? Why is this girl here?
who's this
That's how I
dad
feel
here
too.
trying to make dad jokes? Absolutely. Well, let's talk about outsourcing. You're a one person business, but it sounds like you do some outsourcing. You did mention part time virtual assistants. Talk about that a little bit. How that's been helpful, or any other another form of outsourcing that's like your most impactful money spent.
Yeah. Yeah. Outsourcing, like the VA outsourcing has been really big for me. I've been working with the same person for 6 years now. And so she really knows my business so well. So she helps me manage my calendar. She helps me manage my CRM. I use Kajabi for my coaching. So she kind of helps with that and like loose funnel building, email list management, stuff like that. Really, I found that if I'm outsourcing the things that like I procrastinate it so much, or it is just not really in my wheelhouse. Like admitting to myself where my faults are has been really helpful as a business owner because I'm like, I'm actually just not great at that. That has freed me up to be more of the visionary salesperson, CEO of my business. And like really my day is almost only spent with front facing work. Like if it's me, it's a photo shoot, it's a podcast interview, it's a coaching call or a client. Like I talk with my clients. Anything else, I outsource because it is just, it's not that it's not worth my time because it would be worth my time, but like I make so much more money and do so much more of the work that I want to be doing by like funneling all my energy into the front facing work and having someone else do the back end work.
Yeah. Did you connect with her through a service or did you connect with her just in the local community? How did you make that connection?
So she is someone, I actually coached her in the past and I was like, did you know that you're really good at she was a photographer. I was like, you're really good at these things that most photographers are not good at. And I don't take credit for this because she is an incredible person that like built her business, but within a year, and I like helped her very at the beginning. Within a year, she built a 6-figure VA business after starting it. So she's really good at what she does, and that's how I found her originally, was coaching her and kind of her being in the community that we're in. But I've also hired like editing assistants, so people to help with my editing. And those I've usually found in like the local community, and always cast a vision of like, I would love for this to be a longer term thing. Like my editors come to my house. And so I've had 2 over the last 10 years, and each of them have been like 5 years plus that they did editing 1 day a week. We made it really systematized. I took good care of them. I pay them well. So I think like I would rather pay someone well, take good care of them. I think my theory is that that'll save you money and headache over years than constantly like trying to hire random freelancers. So for me, that's proven to be true. But I do pay more hourly probably than a lot of people do.
That makes sense. Now, have you ever thought, oh man, I think I would like to have multiple employees that are a part of this business, or do you like keeping it as a solopreneur business and hiring contractors when needed?
I did 1 year, and I just wasn't quite ready for it. My first year of really having a big coaching business, I hired a full-time employee and a couple part-time employees, and they're all on payroll. And for me, it actually kind of went against that freedom feeling that I want from my business. I felt like so much responsibility to take care of them. And to be honest, my revenue probably wasn't at the place to really be able to afford as many people as I hired. I went from like one freelance part-time employee to like 4 employees all in the same year. And I not anything against them, they were all amazing. I felt like I was drowning. Like I couldn't sustain what I had committed to, and I felt like because of it, like. And so I had to kind of walk it back. I didn't actually need that many people. I think there was a piece of me that wanted that bigger team, but I didn't really need that big a team. So I think I learned my lesson there. I've had other positions in the past. Like I've had a part-time household manager. I've experimented with that, like someone that comes once a week and does kind of household management tasks. Trying to think what I've had, like a nanny that was one day a week. Everything I've ever tried has mostly been very part-time, very freelance. And some of it I'm like, that was amazing, or that was amazing for a season, but wasn't kind of like the long-term solution for me.
I feel a lot of those feelings that you're saying too. I don't desire to have multiple employees. I like I like the seasonality of working with people, and then they get the autonomy to raise their rates, or or to be their own business owners, like you've done with your virtual assistant. I think that's really cool. I'd like to talk about AI for a moment. Does AI support your business at this moment? And if so, how are you utilizing it to grow your business?
AI, yeah, it supports my business right now. I think the main ways I'm using it are for some copy support. I still do most of my own writing, but sometimes there's like an email funnel that I start it and I want AI to fill it in. That kind of thing has been really helpful. Or the other way that I use it is there's editing software that's AI based, and I'm kind of sponsored by one of those companies, and I've found that to be greatly helpful. And then, a lot of the editing softwares I've used for years now have built-in AI tools, like for taking out things, removing things. It's incredibly good. It's crazy. So, at least with what I do, I'm not so worried about being replaced by AI because I'm photographing people's real life events. So I don't see like AI taking over that portion of it.
Do you see any trends out there that are unnerving? People utilizing AI tools to create their own family imagery or anything like that, or anything like that that seems like a potential threat, or does it just seem like a kitschy little thing that people are experimenting with?
No, I've seen it with headshots, and I've seen it with commercial imagery and like landscapes and like travel images, houses, things like that. I think some product imagery, a lot of the photography there could be replaced with
Yeah.
AI for sure.
I saw a Vogue magazine. There was a big story about that. One of
Hmm.
the first images of I forgot what brand it was, but they maybe American Eagle, something like that, that was
Yeah.
utilizing an AI model. So that it was just
Yeah.
interesting.
No, for sure. Yeah, I think commercial photography could be disrupted for sure, especially things that aren't people. I haven't seen it in like the family photography space or wedding photography space because, like, do you really want to remember like a fake version of your wedding? Like,
That's what I think too. Yeah, I mean,
I mean, and
isn't that the whole
I'm
point,
always,
to capture reality, right?
I'm like, I'm also a little unnerved when people use it as their headshots because, like, I can tell, and like, that's not really how you look. So, not trying to be judgmental, but like, just have a photographer take your photo. Like, you're beautiful.
I love it.
Use the real one.
That's cool. That's cool. All right. Well, the last question here on our high five is: you like your work, you do your business well. When you're not doing your business, what is something you enjoy outside of work?
I love being in nature. I love design. Like, I actually, this is a way I used AI this week that is not related to my work, but I went through my house and had ChatGPT help me redesign my different rooms based on like feng shui. It was really good. And so, like, I just moved furniture around and like moved pictures. And so, yeah, I love design. I live in like a 1870s Victorian house. Like, I love old houses and making spaces feel cozy, and spending time with my son and traveling. So we kind of, with the homeschooling, we've been world schooling. So I'll take like, we're going to go to Greece, and I'll build that into a month's curriculum about ancient Greece and, mythology and stuff like that. So I love doing that. I love creating curriculum around travel and real life experiences. So that keeps me pretty busy.
That's incredible. Well, Kristin, you've built an incredible life that we're all very inspired with, that we're listening to right now. If somebody's listening and they're really inspired and they're saying, wow, I'd like to do that, what is one small piece of advice that you could leave with people as this interview concludes if they're interested in building a solopreneur photography business like you have?
Thanks. Well, I appreciate being on the podcast. This has been super fun, inspired by everything you do too, Andy. Yeah, I think like getting clear is really powerful, getting clear on what you want, even if you're like, hey, my life is not anything like what I want it to be. Start to find little pieces of other people's stories that inspire you, kind of like create a vision for yourself based on, like, I love this piece of what this person does. I love their energy. I love what their, schedule looks like or whatever. And you start kind of like creating this vision, because it's really hard to move forward towards something if you don't think it's possible. So I think like listening to podcasts is huge for that. Starting to take like one little action step a day, and really like don't wait till it's perfect to start. Like pitch the photo shoot to someone with your basic camera before you have the nice camera. Like don't wait till you have thousands of dollars in gear. Just like really get started. And like all of that will come. I think the biggest thing that I see to holding people back is that they feel like it has to be perfect before they even start or launch it. And like, you can do this without a website. You can do this without a CRM. You can do this without a business license. Not for long, not forever, but like at the beginning, just do it, and then like let the pieces kind of naturally fall in as you keep growing.
That's a fantastic idea. And it also helps you test it out if it's something you like or not, just by starting
Yeah.
and going and then being like, hey, I really like this, or I'm really inspired by it. Or, hey, I'm not inspired. That's great. Then you didn't spend any dollars to like, to get it going. So Kristin, this is
100%.
fantastic advice, and your story's super inspiring. Where can people connect with you to learn more about you, your services, and everything that you do?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram a lot at Kristin Sweeting is my Instagram. And then I also have a podcast, the Dangerous Creatives Podcast. So we talk a lot about building creative businesses, living life differently. So if you like podcasts, that might be a good place to start.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you're listening to this podcast, that's an easy thing to do. Go to Dangerous Creatives, hit the subscribe button, support Kristin, and learn from her just like we have today. Kristin, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks, Andy.